actually been a little while since I posted. It has been crazy at the studio, and commitments and a million other things has gone a little bit bonkers, but I am back. I am posting, and I have a humongous backlog of images to edit and show you guys for us to do together. The problem is I've been delaying it. I delay it, I put it off because I want to record it. I want to do it with you. I want you to see what I'm doing. And then it just builds and builds and builds. And I know you guys get mad if I do something beforehand, like if I go on Lightroom and I happen to do my color grading before you've seen it. So I don't do anything. And now I have ended up with like over 20 shoots and workshops waiting to be edited for you all to see. So I'm going to try and play catch up. I am back. I am going to push myself to get as many videos out as possible to make up for me not posting for a little bit. But yeah, so today I'm going to go through one of my fantasy workshops that we did a little while back, and we're going to do color grading. We're going to do fine art, floral. It's always my favorite sort of thing to do. It's really, really fun. I love doing the styling for these shoots. I find it incredibly therapeutic, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, let's get started. Let's see what we've got. So you guys might have seen the previous video of this shoot. As you can see, I've got a load of raws to go through, but today I'm wanting to look at this particular set down here with the blue pastels. I've got a few there. I shot in a random order on this shoot because we were teaching a workshop at the time. Let me see if I've put them all together. I have. Amazing. We have put them all together. So we're going to work with the blue set here. And I'm aiming at doing a lot of my work in Lightroom, a lot of the work in color grading. As you all know, I'm a color grading geek. I absolutely just love, I find far too much pleasure. In fact, I've got some new techniques since I last recorded, so it's going to be even more fun to show you guys some new things. And I'm going to aim at having a almost matte metallic. I know that sounds contradictory, but I want kind of a metallic contrast in the colors, but I would like a matte effect to the overall image for this. Obviously, we're aiming at a painterly fine art feel because that's what we always do and that's what you guys love, and it's my sort of favorite style. But yeah, so I'm going to get going on the color grading. So first thing I always do is I select all my images, and I pick one that I'm either likely to use or I'm likely to use one of the ones similar to it. So this one might be a good example. One of these might work really, really well. This composition down here is my favorite composition because I lined up a load of prints today for a competition, all my flower bomb kind of pictures. And they're all this composition. You could literally just line them up on top of each other because clearly that's my favorite thing, which is ridiculous. I like these. I think that's lovely. I think that's really, really nice. So I'm going to go with that one. So yeah, I like that. So I'm not sure how my color grading is going to transition onto these sort of darker, moodier ones I've got over here, but we will find out. Yeah, I like these. Oh, let's have a look. I do. I like that one. I like the fact I'm going with this one. Right. Okay. So let me just tilt my screen a tiny bit and put that in develop mode. So first thing we always do is our basics. And no matter what I'm doing, I bring my highlights down, my shadows up. The reason I do that is I can kind of flatten out the image a little bit and I can see a kind of less contrasty version. However, I've still got the contrast and the shading and the shadowing that I created with my lighting. So I don't really lose anything and I can put it back in with my color grading in a bit if I want to add a bit of contrast with the luminance in my color grading. So I bring it out a little flat onto there. Now with this set, I haven't played. You can see my raws are untouched. I haven't done anything. So we're going to be playing a little bit. This isn't a how to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to have a little bit of a tweak and a play around. So first thing I'm going to play around with is my white balance because I think I want to bring that a little bit cooler on there because actually that's working for me quite nicely. I think it's much better cooler. She's already quite tanned, so I'm going to get a nice sort of warm vibe from the skin anyway. Now let's move down to my color mixer. So oranges in this image is going to be her skin. So I can kind of make a decision if I want to tweak, oh, reds, wrong one, tweak the skin here, which I wouldn't want to do, make it pink or make her yellow. But what I can do is pull my saturation down a little bit on my oranges, because that's going to give her skin a slightly more desaturated pale effect without affecting the rest of the image. So that's something I definitely want to do a little bit, just to take away that tan a tiny little bit. And then I'm just going to play with the other colors. So we've got our pinks here, and I'm just going to move things and see what moves. We've got our purples. I don't know if you guys can see, there's a few tiny little hints moving. The greens are definitely going to do it. Now for me, these kind of greens, I don't like them. I would much rather they're warm toned. I mean, we can go over to cyan. I hate it. If I take that right over to the yellows, that's so much more pleasing. It's so much nicer. And I'm going to pull that saturation down a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit as well. Okay, so let's go back onto my reds and play with the hue. I can take it to the oranges and pastels here, but it is going to affect her lips as well. I'm going to bring it over to the oranges just a little bit. Back onto my magentas, and that's affecting the roses. I'm going to make them closer to the reds. If I zoom in here, you can see what's happening. It's just taking them a bit creamier, and those colours are now working together a little bit more. Now, as I've done all this, I'm finding her a little bit too zombified, so I'm actually going to go pump some colour back into her from the saturation, and that's just one of those things that's going to happen as you play around. Now, moving down to my color grading, I'm going to use a new technique that I quite like, and it's darkening highlights, darkening shadows, lightening midtones. And by this combination, it gives us a contrasted and defined kind of look, but it's still got a slightly mattified effect, which gives us that Vogue-esque kind of style. So first of all, let's bring this out a little bit more. Let's go on to our shadows, and I'm not touching anything in the colors at first. I am just going to pull my luminance down a little bit. You can see it get a bit contrasty. I'm now going to go onto my midtones, and I'm going to whack that up quite a lot, about halfway. And I'm going to go on my highlights, and I'm going to pull them down quite a bit. So if I come in here, so you can see, if I turn that off and on, you can kind of see, I know we've got the colouring as well. There we go, turn it on off on there, if I remember what I'm doing. It's basically mattified that image so that we've got a slightly cleaner finish between the tones. And for me, I quite like that. I think that works really, really nicely, and it gives me a contrast range that I can now play with, and I can add my colours in as I want to. So I'm going to try shadows first. Now, as I always teach you guys, we're going to add more colour, and then we pull our saturation down and find less. So we add more colour while we figure out what we want. I already know I want bluey kind of tones, probably want a warmer blue, and I don't want a lot in my shadows there. And over to my highlights, I'm definitely going to end up in my yellows and my oranges. There's like not a doubt that we're going to end up more there. And usually when I use this kind of color grading technique, my midtones is roughly the same color or very complementary to my highlights. Just usually works out that way. It's going to be better. If I go over to the blues, it's going to make the whole image blue. So I'm going to be bringing that slightly into the oranges as well. And that's looking quite nice from there. Let's pull that up to there. Okay, so I like it. Let's just do a before and after. I'm liking the finish. I want to change the highlights. They're not punching enough for me. So I'm going to go back on here, and I'm going to pull them up a tiny bit. And let's try them in cyan. Oh, there's just slightly too many on those flowers. Sometimes it can be nice if the highlights have a sort of cooler feel, but those flowers are taking it. So let's go back up to our basics, and we'll punch them up there. That's it. We'll punch them up that way. Perfect. Okay, well, I'm loving that. I'm going to up my blacks a tiny bit, not a lot. We just teeny tiny bit. And I'm going to pull up those shadows a little bit more. Beautiful. I like that. Okay, so before and after. I've got all that detail in the hair. It's not too flat. I'm going to bring that there. It's not too flat. I think it's looking nice. Now, there are some elements that are a little bit distracting. We have some lighter flowers around, and they're nice, but they're a little bit distracting. I'm going to attack them with a mask, but I'm not going to be able to do a mask throughout all my images. So I'm going to hit sync, and I'm going to sync all these images so they all have the same color grade. And then I can apply my masks to any images that I choose that I'm going to edit. You can have this little tick box down here and have auto sync, so it does the changes in real time as you're editing. Personally, I find it slows Lightroom down a little bit, just a little bit, not a lot, but enough that I notice, and I might as well just click sync myself when I'm done and I'm finished playing, rather than have it keep up with me all the time. But you can do it however you want to. So I'm going to go onto my crop. I'm going to bring this crop in, which is how it was intended to be shot. I wanted to have some of the dress still in it, but actually I am liking the idea of cutting a little bit of that out. Composition in here. I do like that. Let's just actually arch her back that way. I think it's nice. I think it's a tight crop as is, and it's already quite nice. I actually think I will prefer it without the skirt, which is upsetting because I'm ending up back. Yeah, it is better. I'm ending up back into the composition that I just said I always pick. So I was trying not to do that, but you know, it's fine. Yeah, that's looking okay. That's looking nice. Okay, so let's do the masking. Let's get on to that, shall we? Because I've already been rambling on for 10 minutes. So let's grab our little mask here. I'm going to do these with a brush rather than any kind of object or other thing, because these are soft areas, they're flowers, and I want to control what I'm doing. So I'm going to get a slightly bigger brush, and firstly I'm going to start over here, just highlight over it, and all I'm going to do is pull highlights down. Nothing else, just pull highlights down. That gives me a option to start doing that in other areas where the flowers are pulling my distraction a little bit and I'm sort of drawn to them. And I can do that like that. You can have multiple masks for different flowers. In fact, it actually can be quite useful because you could play with the temperatures and the hues and change the colors of the flowers a little bit. But I find all of that much easier in Photoshop to do after. So I think that's really done it, to be honest. I'm surprised that was that quick, but it was. It didn't really take very long, did it? Ah, so much better. See how much we're drawn to those areas, and then you turn it off. Ah, beautiful. Okay, well now I can do my overall, have a look through, see if I'm happy with everything. I might bring my shadows down a little bit. Not a lot. I'm happy with that. Perfect. So I'm going to load this up in Photoshop and I will show you what I do next. So I've jumped into Photoshop and I'm looking through my image and I'm looking at what I'm going to do on this image. Not a lot, if I'm honest. I'm obviously going to remove this little bit of softbox up here. We're going to do our basic skin edits and everything like that. I think contour is going to be what's really going to push it. And I might play around with my color a little bit more at the end for a bit of punch. So first thing, let's zoom in and go up here. And I'm just going to select this with the patch tool, hit delete on my keyboard. It will come up with the fill option. I've already got it selected on content aware, and I'm going to click OK. And that's just going to remove that. Now, it's not done the best job. It's done a little bit of weirdness up here. We're just going to content aware that again. And that is gone. Fantastic, nice and easy. Okay, so here we're just going to remove anything on the skin that we don't want to be there in the final image. And there's not very much to remove at all. And I've just got the eyes, I've got a few sort of lines in the eyes as well that I'm just going to make sure aren't going to be distracting from a distance. You'd be amazed how tiny details like that can be picked up on, even on something like Instagram or a tiny thumbnail. It's weird how it kind of colors. Now, all I'm using is my patch tool and just very carefully moving this around just to give a slightly more, ooh, that's horrible. Let's sort that out. There we go. just to give a slightly more realistic sort of eye there. There's a bit of pink here. It's bugging me. We're going to go fix it. So I'm going to use my clone stamp and I'm going to put it on 20%. And I'm just going to, there we go, and patched all over that. Just going to clone around that bit. Yeah, much better. Clean eyes, nice and done. All happy with that. Now to do my skin edit, I have my skin texture here that I always use, that I have written. It is using high pass and surface blur. You'll find that in so many of my videos, how to do the skin edit. For the purpose of this image, because I want to go onto the contour, I'm just going to run my action, but I'll show you what the layers are and how they work. So it's made up of 2 layers essentially. It's 3 layers in there. This layer is just a backup boring layer. The next layer is surface blur. If I turn them, oh, Muppet. If I turn that up, why can't I make it see it? Oh, okay. So it's clearly been too long. I forgot it auto puts a mask on it. I need another holiday. So there we go. So yeah, you can see that surface blur layer is there. And when I put a high pass on, it gives us detail. If I turn these off, you'll see the high pass layer on there with a little bit of detail. Let's put that back to around 30 to 40%. And now I'm going to invert my mask again, and I will just draw where I want the skin editing. But you can tell when it's been a while, can't you? Not like I don't use that action all day, every day for lots of different things, but you know, totally fine. And just draw around here. If you've got a skin action or edit that is good, you shouldn't notice too much with it. It should just lift the skin slightly. It shouldn't do a lot. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to, yeah, I think that all looks good. On my original layer, I'm just going to soften bits under here. Just turn that one off. So I just put them all on again, didn't I? So I'm just going to soften these bits under here. But that's all good. Okay, so skin edit is all good. So let's add our contour layer. I'm going to hit Control, Shift and N, or Command, Shift and N, I believe, on a Mac. And we're going to create a layer. We'll call it Contour, probably spelt wrong, and hit Mode, Soft Light. We're then going to tick the little box for 50% grey, and we've got a 50% grey layer that you cannot see because it is on soft light. On soft light, anything that is that shade of grey, 50% grey, is invisible. You can see everything lighter and darker, and that's why we're going to use our dodge and our burn. So I'm going to grab my dodge tool on midtones at 20%, and I'm just going to tap around. I tap because I'm applying it like a makeup brush. We're just tapping the powder on, and I'm just choosing where I want the brighter parts of my image. And now I'm going to move to my burn tool, where I can brush where I want any kind of contour. Now, because we're doing this on another layer, you can flick back and forth between your lightening and darkening as many times as you please, and you can tone it down afterwards, which is why I'm not worried about me going absolutely overboard. Now, one of the most important things you need to remember when you're doing this is you only contour what's already there. You can't add shadow where there is light. It's just going to be weird. It's not going to work with your image. So all I'm doing is enhancing the natural features. Now let's come round onto here, and we're going to shade down the arm a tiny bit more where there's already shadow. Just create a little bit more definition down here, and add a little bit of highlight on the collarbone, a little bit on that shoulder. Okay, I'm liking how that looks. I'm going to tiny tap up there. So are you ready for the crazy reveal? Off, on. Absolutely mental. And it doesn't look like you've done a lot until you look at it off and on and you think, oh my gosh. And that's when you're going to decide that you use your opacity layer to choose how much of this you actually want on. Now I'm going to keep quite a lot of it because I was quite careful, but if you go overboard, you can tone it down and play around as much as you need to. So I'm quite happy with that. I think that's looking really, really nice. I do want to enhance her eyes a little bit. I think they could be a little bit more glisten, glowy kind of. So let's zoom into the eyes, and I'm going to add an adjustments layer that is levels. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to up my midtones, up my highlights just a little bit, and then pull my shadows down until the pupil is black again, basically. Then what I'm going to do is, with my mask, invert it, Control I. And then with my brush, I'm just going to tap over the top of the eyes. And if I zoom out, you can see that all we've done is sort of increase the contrast in those eyes, giving us a more realistic glisten. But it's again enhancing what was already there, what her eyes were already doing. We're not adding any catch lights or adding anything that was unrealistic. It's just what was already there. So finally, I'm going to scan my image and see if there's anything that's distracting me and irritating me. That is that little bit up there. So I'm going to go onto my background layer with my patch tool, remove that because that's nothing but annoying. And for some reason, that bit up there was irritating me. Apart from that, not very much is at all. I think we're looking quite good. I'm just going to go back on my contour, just darken under the neck a tiny bit more, just because I feel like it needed a little bit more shadow. And I'll use that layer to shadow in the flowers a bit as well. Last thing I'm going to try, I am going to click on my top layer, so I'm at the top. I'm going to hit my adjustments and I'm going to go color balance. I'm then going to go on my shadows and I'm going to bring cyan in a tiny bit. And I'm going to go onto my highlights and I'm going to bring my yellow and my red in a little bit. And we're going to tick preserve luminosity on and off to see what we prefer. I prefer it with. Now if I turn that off and on, okay, I like it, but I want my shadows to go a little bit more into those blues. Okay. Yeah, I'm liking that as a little bit of contrast. It sort of gives it a push. I think it looks quite nice. I think I'm happy. I think I'm done. I try not to dwell on images and get too stuck into it because, as we all know, we could definitely spend hours and hours just editing the same image, tweaking it. And I would be doing that if I was for print or anything else. There'd be more things that I'd be looking for. But overall, I think that's basically done. So if you made it this far through the video, thank you so much for your support. Add a like, hit the subscribe button. All of your support really, really helps. And I really enjoy making these videos for you guys. I'd love to continue and keep making more. Any requests you've got, stick it in the comments. I would love to do more things that you guys want to do. I've already got a couple of those videos lined up. So let me know if there's anything you want to see. And thank you again for your support.